Cut 4. Thank you for tuning in to Mr. Cliff's Toy Shop. On today's review, we take a look at the Mafex DC Batman Hush Superman. Today I'll be reviewing this figure in the following categories: accessories, articulation, design, is it essential to your collection, functionality, and price. Once those scores are totaled, I'll give you my opinion if this figure is a pass or a purchase. So for accessories, Superman seems pretty light. So we get these effect pieces that Poison Ivy basically used to infect him. Well, it was seeds that she used. This was the aftermath of him being infected with those seeds. And I don't like how this looks, especially this one. It looks like an overspray of paint. And instead of resembling vines, it just looks like a globby piece of plastic. So these effect pieces aren't done particularly well. Superman does have 5 pair of hands in total. 2 or 4 hands are fisted. So it is this version of the fisted hands, and in package he comes with more fisted hands. At this point in the video, I cannot tell you the difference between those hands. What's cool is that he comes with an accessory for another figure. So this is for the Batman from Hush, which I don't own. And then we receive an alternate head sculpt with the eyes painted red. You look pretty closely, you can see there are some blue highlights in the hair. And on my face, I seem to have like some marks. Like there's red underneath the eyes, which I would assume is to heighten the appearance of his laser beams. But on the cheek area, like I have some black blemishes. And I don't think that's supposed to be there. So there is something about the eyes, and I'll talk about that a little bit later once we get to the functionality portion of the video. So for overall accessories, we're just missing a lot of things. No heat vision, no cold breath. So for overall accessories, I'm going to give this Superman a 6 out of 10. So for articulation, the head is able to, well, the head and neck are a separate piece, and the head is able to look up that far on its own. It's able to bury itself, well, kind of way down. You do get good amount of rotation as well as pivot, and some shift back and forth. It does feel a little bit loose in some areas. So now with the arms, well, kind of didn't like that. The arm goes up about this much. It clearly rotates a full 360. You have an upper bicep cut. Knees are elbows are double jointed, bending way in. You also have a butterfly joint coming forward about that much. Not really going backwards. So, almost forgot. So the wrists are on a ball peg. You can get these to go up and down or side to side. So looking at the torso, you have a floating piece, an A and B portion. So just using the A, Superman is able to crunch back a great amount forward. Not that much. Some rotation. Okay pivot. So using the combination of the two, he's able to go way back, way forward. Great amount of pivot as well as rotation. You also get a swivel in the waist. The legs are able to go out about that much. Kick way high. Back that much. You do get upper rotation. Next point of rotation is at the foot. I thought this would be, but it's not. So now with the foot is on a ball peg. You can get it to go back that much, forward that much, some rotation in, barely any out. It's also double jointed. Wow, kicking way in. You can kick his own back. All right, let me fix him up. Very quickly, I just want to point something out in the design portion. If you look on the neck, there's some seepage of blue right there that's peeking out. So back to articulation, this figure moves particularly well. Just a little bit of limitation in the head. I'm torn between scores, 8 and an R and 9. I'm going to go ahead and give this Superman a 9 out of 10 for articulation. So for design, where exactly to start? So I think this figure had an overall tough job to do. One, that's taking a comic-based character and transforming such character into an action figure. The challenge with that is in comics, you have different artist interpretation, you have shadowing, and then depending on scene, the characters are different, sometimes being different in size. So there are times to where Superman may seem slender, larger, muscular build, angry, etc. So to capture all of that in toy form is very different. So let's start with that. So I think a good place to start will be with the paint apps. Now, looking at the chin, you can zoom in some. Yep, you can see it right here. There's a darker color peeking through. And if you look on the neck, right there, there's also a darker color peeking through. Now, the blue that's used, I don't have a problem with this blue, though I think in the Hush comics, the blue was more prominent. Now, moving on to the red is definitely a lot duller than it needs to be. I think Superman color is closer to a metallic cherry red versus this closer to maroon color. But the color that really catches my attention and disappoints me mostly on this figure would be this yellow. It is extremely flat and muted. And the yellow that Superman has is very vibrant. Like if you take a look at the belt, for example, and then you flip Superman to the back to look at the S, this yellow is a lot more vibrant than this one. But even with this one, I think it still should have been a bit louder. And also looking at the S, I was staring at it for quite some time trying to figure out what was different about it. And it's missing two symbols. There's a triangle symbol somewhere up top, and I want to say here or maybe there. If I can find an image showing that, and I think I shouldn't have a hard time doing it, I'll make sure to put it in the video. Now, just continuing down to the boots, there's also some imperfections on the boot itself. There's a darker color seeping through. And looking at the pins were left in that silver color. Have no idea why they weren't painted. Now, some of this stuff I expect to see with action figures, but not typically at this price point. Jumping back up to the top, one thing that was very obvious the moment I pulled this figure out of the box is that the head is too small. And if you think that I'm incorrect about it, take a look at the Hush version of Batman and just see the difference between the Batman head and the Superman head. So that's just something that I don't like. And perhaps the last thing that I'm going to point out, I don't like the breakup of this figure. If you take a look on the side, it appears that they use a separate piece for the chest. So as they tuck the cape in, they then put this chest piece over it to conceal it. The problem with that is it leaves gappage. So now you have the gappage from the butterfly joints, you have this gappage in between here, and then you have another one. And I don't like how broken up that looks. And if you look at it underneath, let's just cover this part for a moment. You can see it here again. And of course, yes, I know that this is a floating piece, but I guess with the combination of everything else, it just seems like a lot. Now, where I think Mafex did a good job is the overall proportion of the body, with the exception of the head. I think the chest is a good size, as well as the arms. I do like how the muscle definition looks, and then continue throughout to the legs. I also think it's a good looking head sculpt. So for overall design, I'm going to give Suits a 6 out of 10. So as far as being essential, that's just such a tough one, as there are so many versions of Superman available. So many companies have Superman figures in one way or the other. And depending what era you're from, depending what Superman means most to you, that can vary. So I'm going to give a score. Typically, I don't like to give and play it on the safe side. So as far as being essential to your collection, I'm going to give this version of Superman a 5 out of 10. So for functionality, this is the first time that I got this figure to stand, and I've been messing with it for a full day. So I really don't know how to score that, as now this figure is standing, but it was definitely a difficult job to get this Superman to stand. So starting with the head for a moment for functionality, and I guess I could have talked about this during the design, so I'll make this quick. So here he has red eyes. It is not that prominent, but I think all Superman figures should come with some type of laser effect, which this one doesn't, so that is very disappointing. So now for functionality, the head looks up a decent amount, but for a flying character, it should look up much further than we see here. Taking a look at the cape has a wire at both ends, so you're able to get it in a lot of poses. I do prefer additional wires, whether at the bottom or coming down, maybe the middle or another seam, but nevertheless, this one works by the way that it's drapered over the chest. So now, one of the greatest things with this figure is just the overall articulation, the range of movement. You can see how easily you're able to shift. With the legs, they drop down, so you're able to kick them up for more range. And his trunks are a soft material, so when you're kicking up, it easily bends, not to restrict movement. So those are some of the things that I like. I also like with the Superman, when you put him in a flying pose, you can get the feet sort of to lay almost flat. And when you try to get him in the pose, again, the head doesn't look all the way up, but if you maneuver the torso like so, you can get Superman in a flying pose, and I'm pretty sure that I can do a little bit better than that. Yeah, that works. So here's one set of the fisted hands on Superman. You can see that this is entirely closed. All fingers are sealed pretty tightly. The next set of fisted hands have space in between the thumb and the rest of the fingers. See a set of flat hands. Set of these hands. Set of open hands. I don't know where the other one is, as my son must have moved it. And since the hands are off, let's just go ahead and add these effect pieces on, like so. Trying to see if you can put them any way. It will fit, but clearly it's supposed to go the wider end first. And then just grabbing the fisted hands just to give you an idea of how that is. There you go. And I'll put the other fist on. But before putting the other fist on, I just want to show how thin these pegs are. I don't like how thin they are. And I don't think we get a replacement for pegs. So now I want to pop the head off, even though I don't need to put the part that goes on the neck. But I do want to show how this peg is slightly slanted to the back. And I'll go ahead and put this head on. Again, I don't like how thin that peg is, but the head pops off easy enough. And even with this one, there is, look at this, it's just, there's some darkness coming through under the eye, over the forehead, and right by the hair. And if you look on the other side, there's, not happy about that. And to throw in the final effect piece, this goes around his neck. You can just throw it on like so. So for functionality, I'm going to give this figure a 9 out of 10. So for pricing, I think this is a $100 figure. By the time I ordered this, they were no longer available in the state, so I actually received mine from Japan. So I paid about $70 for the figure and maybe $30+ for shipping. So we're just going to round that to $100. So now is Superman worth the price of admission? So first, let's see what he comes with. We get a lot of hands, 2 heads, and some vine effect pieces. We don't get enough as far as an accessory department. We could have got a 3rd head. We could have got some heat vision effect pieces. We could have gotten more, but we didn't. So the accessories is really not a strong draw to this figure. So here's the part to where a lot of people may get upset. This is my first Mafex figure. So this is the first time that I'm messing around with this type of tooling. And the only thing that continues to stay in my mind is value. Value was the biggest thing when it comes to this figure, in my opinion, because it's priced at $100. So we know with the Asian imports, they demand a higher price. Sometimes I can see why, other times I am not sure. So back to that value thing again. This is another Asian import. I'm going to say similar tooling. This one certainly has more color to it. Equal price point. This was $100. This was $105. This figure comes with more than what this figure comes with. And if you just look at the amount of plastic used here versus the amount of plastic used here, I'm having a hard time justifying why these two figures are at the same price point. This isn't just off of the principle of bigger is better, but in this situation, I have to say that bigger is better. I can justify, compared to this figure, why this one commands a $100 price point. This figure compared to this one, I cannot justify why this one is priced at $100. So sliding Lobo away for a moment, and now just coming into another figure. This figure from NECA is $35. Let's say with taxes, $40. Again, more plastic, better value. And the other part that I thought about, maybe Mafex doesn't sell as much figures as Marvel Legends. So this is why they can't be at a $20 price point. But I feel that they sell at least as many figures as a Super 7. $45 before taxes and shipping. Half the cost of this one, more plastic, more colors, not as much functionality. So where does that leave me for price? I feel that this figure is overpriced by at least $40, if not more. So for pricing, I'm going to give this Superman a 6 out of 10. So that should give this Superman an overall cliff score of 41 out of 60. So is this figure a pass or a purchase? So for me, I had to consider a few things. Again, with value. And also, this is the first Mafex figure that I own. So is this figure going to make me, in particular, go out and get more Hush figures? And I have to say that it's not at this price point. And another factor for me is that this really doesn't fit into my collection. It doesn't really scale well with the Mezco figures. Some you can fudge. It doesn't scale with the McFarlane figures unless you're using large characters such as the Doomsday Batman. But to put this next to the 7-inch McFarlane Wonder Woman or Batman, it is just way out of scale. So I have nowhere really in my collection for this. Unless I go to my Dragon Ball Z lineup. Hold on, I'll be right back. So this works. And this is something that I possibly can fudge. The hands are pretty close. Superman has more muscle definition than Goku, which I feel is fine. The head size is pretty similar, though Goku has that wild hair. And for the feet, not bad. So, yeah, if you want a Superman for your Dragon Ball Z lineup, that can actually work. So that made me think, right? Maybe I can use this Superman. But as far as being a pass or a purchase, for me, this is a pass. For anyone who's interested in buying this figure, please hit me up on Instagram at Mr. Cliff's Toy Shop. All right, so for scale, we may be here for a while. So here's the Mezco 112 Christopher Reeve Superman alongside the Mafex Hush. Let me see if I can get him to stand. All right, so there's these two together. Quite the difference. And let's just slide in the McFarlane Infected Superman. So they're not evenly side by side, as I have to lean the Hush version over the Mezco so that it doesn't fall. So here you see perspective, different sizes. Let's go with a larger character from McFarlane. Let's go with a smaller, or a Mezco figure. Just threw in the Mezco Flash. And it looks like the Hush version of Superman and the Mezco Flash can work, though you see the huge difference with the size of their heads. Let's take out the Flash and let's throw in Green Lantern, John Stewart. And I think this body was too small for John Stewart. Hopefully we get another Green Lantern and I can just prop this head onto that. And the Hush Superman is quite taller than this Green Lantern. Let's throw in the Mezco Red Sun Superman, which in my opinion is the best 6-inch version of Superman that we have. And the Hush figure may be the same height. It sucks because the figure doesn't stand, so hold on. There we go. All right, let's move him, and I'm going to attempt to slide these over just a bit. All right. All right, so here they are next to the Storm Collectibles Lobo. Quite the difference in size. I think Lobo should be bigger than Superman, but maybe not that much bigger. Slide that out the way. Here he is next to here they are next to Storm Collectibles, Darkseid. Again, I don't like Darkseid that much bigger than Superman. Really quite the difference in scale. And my last comparison, and I'll do this a little bit separate, is the Storm Collectibles Doomsday. Yes! Sheesh! So we'll start with the Christopher Reeves version first. I might as well move him completely out of the way, and we'll go with the Hush version next. Yes. So thank you for tuning in to Mr. Cliff's Toy Shop. I hope to see you during the next review.
What is that?
That's Doomsday.
Really?
Yes, really.
Really? That Doomsday?
That is Doomsday.
Really?
Really.